Yeah, it's just a matter of trying to find the time. Because I know the
Here, here.
for September.
Here. Dealt with him. Oh my
She
God.
actually does it. It's just that,
Course of the expressway.
but hold it left sort of under a bunch of land. Like the manual I created, I talked to her, she hasn't even seen it yet. Well, because I originated, I'm like, well, that's, every time it's changed, I see it because I'm the originator. I mean, you can't change it. I'm like, I have it, so I have to set up a meeting with her. She hasn't even seen it. She hasn't even seen it.
Some of those people that were in office were so dissipated that they didn't care.
And it's a money maker.
Well, yeah, I know.
And so
But they tell you they did.
But I'll let you know about it. All right, yeah, because we're going to be having it out at the Aerospace Museum. They're going to host it for free. Yep, I talked to them. I got everything set. I got everything set. I just got to get everybody together, get the time. The other ones that are spending more are text class.
Well, first of all, I will be there with taxes on. People along the Ohio border are going to go to Ohio for gas.
yeah.
They're about track.
Yeah, I remember that they told you it cost that.
$5,000. It only cost $5,000 more to put in that road. You know, I never done that. I'm not that
Right.
stupid. And, you know, so I said, yeah, he would get in his safety. I said, anytime you got a road, you have two cars, you get this.
I think mine runs about 1 mile. That's because if one car goes through it, it's 20 minutes. So why they run about that? That's over 5 miles.
Okay. Guess you're not getting much. Not a lot of traffic.
Evan's not here. Okay. This should be. We'd like to call the meeting to order. Trustee Gerald Rowe will be late. Should be at this meeting?
Yes, I think so.
And Jimmy Wilson, did he send it to you?
I didn't get anything from Jimmy.
Okay.
Did he send something to you?
No,
Oh, okay.
no. But Heather did.
Heather did. So
Yeah.
it should be late, but he should be.
Yeah. All right, the first item is a discussion of attendance policy. Trustee Alden? We could go to the second item.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I know we talked about this a few years ago. It kind of mirrors what we did for the trustees as far as board attendance policies because of past issues. And so I just wanted to revisit it again and see if there's any will amongst the 7 as a group to discuss a more standard formalized policy for full-time officials for attendance, whether it be at meetings or the regular shifts they work. And I only bring it back because it's been brought up to me by not only residents in the community, but by employees of the township. And so I just want to go back and see if there's a will to discuss it, and if there is, then we can move forward. If there's not, then there's not. I know we talked about it in the past, and there's really nothing that would dictate what the hours are or what the number of work days are for a full-time elected official in the state of Michigan, whether it be at the township level or at the state level. And it kind of came back to the forefront at the state level when they had a state representative who lost in the primary in August and then refused to show up for work again until their term ended in November, yet collected a salary, per diem, stipends, and everything else along the way. And so that's kind of what got it going again, and then it got brought up, and I was asked if I would bring it forward again and discuss it. Again, we can, if there was a will, we can put all of the parameters in place, and if somebody were to still not follow those parameters, I know the last time we discussed it 3 years ago, there's really no penalty for somebody who wouldn't follow those parameters. There's no statutory requirement. So my only thought on that was if we agree as a board that there should be a standard work schedule, whatever that might look like, and if somebody didn't violate it, again, you can't diminish their benefits, but you could certainly no longer include them in any pay raises that might come forth for other employees who followed it. And then as we look further and get more information, it seems that maybe that state law might be in contrast to MERS, where MERS says you have to work a certain number of days per month for so long before you're eligible for retirement. So I just think it's worth at least having the discussion to see if there's a will amongst the board to try and set something up that's a little bit more formal.
Comment?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd question the MERS thing, Stan. I know in the auto industry, when we worked there, I mean, you could be off on a medical for, and don't quote me on this, but I'll say at least 90 days and still gain your retirement. So, I mean, what's the number of days that MERS asks you that you have to work?
10 per month, but for the moment, let's just throw that one out and not even discuss it because that's something that's recent. And this is just me and only me, but I think when the voters of any municipality elect people to a board, their expectation is that those people work a 5-day-a-week, 8-hour-a-day job, just like the employees with whom they supervise. And I think that's all we're looking for is just to formalize that. Nobody else in the state has done it. We would be setting a trend in doing it because, again, right now there's no statute, no mandatory requirement. In essence, our 3 full-time officials could work 1 day a month, 1 minute per day, and still get paid the same salary as anybody else. So I don't think that's what people elected any of us for. So I'm just looking to formalize it so that we're working what the community would expect us to work, supervise the employees that we have to supervise, and if somebody still decides that's not what they would like to do, then the only recourse we would have is not to include them in on any wage increases that we do every year during the budget process. It's the only thing I can think of. Now, again, I may be the only one that has this feeling, and if that's so, then we won't move forward. But
All right. Trustee Monica?
I'm fine with discussing it. I can tell you that much. I wasn't on the board 3 years ago, so basically I don't know everything about that particular discussion, but I would love to have information on it because it's not really a revisiting because I wasn't here, but I would like to engage the discussion.
Okay. I do know with MERS that you do have to work so many days or you don't get a retirement if you're an employee. Like, that is true. I mean, to count the years or something, I'm not as familiar with it, so I do know we need to do that. But setting that aside, did they introduce state law on that, stand for the state rep? I thought they tried to
they have tried to.
discussed it.
They've discussed it, but it's not gone anywhere.
Okay,
I
okay.
mean, that's kind of like asking, them to police themselves, and
Okay, I didn't.
not to disparage anybody, but I don't think that's ever going to happen. So my thought is let's police our own selves and set an example for everybody else in the state, and maybe that will lead somebody else to follow us and somebody else to follow them and so on and so forth. So that we get back to the idea of what public service is supposed to be.
Well, I'm not opposed to having standards at all for everybody, you know, all elected officials and employees, which is what we have. I'm not opposed to doing that, but I come to work, so I just don't want the record to look like we don't come to work, because I do, and it doesn't reflect.
No, it's not intended for anyone in
Individual, yeah.
specific, no.
Okay,
It's just, I don't think I'm the only one, but others of us get stopped and ask about certain things, and I think the township has put in place an 8:30 to 4:30 workday. So that's when I think that we should be working, is 8:30 to 4:30. Since that's when our employees, if we're going to mandate that they be here during that time, I think then we, as the full-time officials who oversee 100-plus employees, probably should be here during those same hours. Understanding that you're going to have time off and all those other things. I just think we need to get back to a standard work day, work week, work month, work year. Because at the end of the day, every year when we sit and we go through the budget process, it seems like we always say, well, when it comes to raises, we're going to do a me too.
Right.
Full-time officials are going to get the same raise that department directors did or Teamsters officials did. Well, you can't ask for a me too policy when it comes to salary and money if you're not going to follow them in every other aspect of their job. That's just not proper, I don't think.
that's fair.
Yeah, I'm sure we all agree with you, Stan.
Hello, Denise Kirchhoff,
Oh,
6298.
I'm sorry, just a moment, I'm sorry. Larry was talking, I was just waiting for him to finish. And I
yeah.
recognize you, okay, hon?
Oh, go ahead.
Just, you can stay there, though.
Yeah, I just think, is it something that we can put in that has meat to it, that, you know?
Well, depends on, I guess, how much you want to pay raise at the end of the year. So if one of the three decides to come to work and two of the three don't, and only one gets a pay raise, that's the only thing I can think of right now, because there is no state law that mandates it. So simply because there's not a state law doesn't mean we can't try to do the right thing.
That's like a performance, right? Or is that a performance?
Performance standard
I don't know, yeah.
is what I guess I would call it, but again, just because nobody else does it and the state doesn't mandate it doesn't mean we can't do it.
Right.
And maybe we can help lead the way to change those things instead of just simply following what's been done for so many years.
Okay,
So,
I'm sorry,
No, you're good. Now?
yes.
Okay, Denise Kirchhoff, 6298 Maplehurst Drive. I think I know what you're talking about. I actually have friends that serve on the Livonia City Board. They never have to discuss. They're at work between, everybody there is at work between when the offices are open to when they're closed. I have family that lives in Port Huron. Exact same thing. That decision doesn't have to be made. But I know what you're talking about, because there is a serious groundswell movement that politicians are not aware of. If you're getting paid, you need to work 40 hours a week. And I know what you're saying, basically that, well, you guys can't do anything about it. But voters can, because your attendance at work, even though Ypsilanti Township is very, very small, there are a lot of moving things. There are a lot of, and I know why you brought this up, because this is huge in the progressive movement about people not being at work, about you making a full-time salary and working part-time. Nobody has that option unless you work for yourself. And I understand what you're saying, where you say you don't, there's nothing you can do, but voters are paying attention. So you don't really have to police yourself. More people are becoming engaged. And once again, I know why you said that. I was at a meeting that was not even in Washtenaw County, and it was massive. And it's like, you know what? We don't have to say anything to the politicians because we're going to vote. And you don't have to tell us when you work, because people have made phone calls, and there are actually, right here in Washtenaw County, people call to find out who's at work, and they can go down the days and say, they weren't there, I called, they weren't there, went by, they weren't there. So I think what you really need to understand, whether you show up or not, people know. And if you're going to take a full-time salary, work full-time. If you don't want to work 40 hours a week, go find a job that's going to not let you work 40 hours a week, because there are a lot of millennials out there that will run a race around you that will be a groundswell, and they will work 40-plus hours a week with their kids by their sides, and they don't have a problem with that because things need to be done. But I understand where you're coming from because there are a lot of online things here in Ypsi that other people don't know about that they call every day and say, let's see who's at work today. And it's a private group, and you know what? They've been pretty damn accurate, and people are tired. If you want the money, come to work, do the job. But if you don't police yourself, I don't think you really have to worry about it because voters are policing people and nobody even knows it. But I think you probably ran into that group that was very vocal, and it's not just Washtenaw County. It's all over. I mean, enough of politics as usual. Excuse my language, a fucking enough. It's not any good anymore. It doesn't work for us, period. It just doesn't. So whether you agree to do it or not, at the end, we'll have the last say whether people who are working full-time here when they're supposed to be here, whether they stay in office or not. Just to let you know, and that's truly the fact of it.
Thank you. Hi.
Hello, my name is Joanne McCullum. I live at 1900 Tyler Road, Ypsilanti Township. And I'm in agreement that there should be some standards with the attendance policy for the elected officials. There's so much suspicion and doubt with politicians already. I mean, you don't have to do anything, you know. But so you just have to be on your P's and Q's and make sure that you're doing everything you need to do to look like you're putting your all into it. I also have a question. Is this concerning the board also, or just full-time employees?
The board trustees, they have a attendance policy.
Okay, yeah, because I tell you,
For board meetings only.
for board meetings only, right?
Yeah.
So for me, not seeing board members, I don't come that often, and maybe it's just the fluke that when I come, someone's missing or something, but it never used to be that way. Every time I came, that whole board was filled, and, you know, that just gave a sense of security, and I knew people were here because they cared, so I think it's important. Thank you.
So is there any? Okay.
My name is Arloa Kaiser. I live at 1421 Melvin Street, and I believe that the whole board should be accountable, not just the trustees. And we're supposed to look up to you people. If we can see that you are doing your job, working 40 hours a week, we are paying you through our taxes, not just me, but a whole bunch of people, paying our taxes to support you to do the best job for us. And if you are not here full-time, that means you are not giving your all for what you are being paid for and what the voters have voted for. And saying about people being voted in, what percentage of people actually these days are voting? There's not that large of a population that is voting for offices, you know, that compared to the population. It's like the meeting last night for the roads. It wasn't full, and yet how big is our township?
It's a pretty good crowd though, Ms. Kaiser.
I know it was not packed,
Yeah,
but how many people do we have? I believe the number somebody said was like 55,000 people here?
57, yeah.
Okay. And if there's that many, there's not that many voting out there that should. So that doesn't mean that who really should be in office is in office. It's who has the best cronies and knows the most people to vote them into position. And I believe you should have something to police yourselves. Police yourselves for the population that has voted for you to do a good service to us.
Yeah.
And we
I think
did it.
what I heard Stan say was the hours. That's what the 8:30 to 4:30.
Yeah, and I I'll give you a handout that it's kind of, I think the clerk has it from a couple years ago. I just went through and made a couple small changes. So I have a copy for everybody, including Lisa for the minutes and the attorney. And then I just included from last month's MTA magazine, from the director of the MTA, Larry Merrill, an article on articulating values and establishing ethical standards, our core township board obligations. So I think we have 7 people here who are all on the same mindset and who want to work in that direction. So I don't think it's going to be a problem for this board, but I think we would really serve as good leaders statewide by doing it. So I think this board's not a problem, but if we take care of it right now, we don't have to worry when maybe the 7 of us aren't here and other people are here. They will already have a standard in place to follow moving forward, whether it be in 2 years, 10 years, or 20 years.
Yes, sir?
Oh, she was first.
Sure, he spoke one. May I have him go?
Go ahead.
Is that okay, hon?
That's fine.
I like to be fair.
All right. So Paul Noble, 7241 Belmead Street. And I'm in agreement as well with the attendance policy or the thought. My only input into it would be maybe to look towards a flexible schedule because you do have these functions like this, your board meetings where you're kind of rolling into the night. So if you're stuck at 8:30 to 4:30, then you're actually working a very long day on days like this. So I would just say have a set core hour, and then you can flex the time before or after these cores, and how I actually do it at my work as well. So, all right.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Denise again. I just wanted to comment on 2 things. I'm a precinct delegate, so I know how many people vote. And 2 precincts, we had 2,897 people vote and over 900 mail-in ballots. So just to let you know, people do vote. I'm actually going to this big statewide Vans thing on voting and getting out the vote and the early absentee ballot. I don't know. I think it's something you actually had to be invited to because it's a big thing. It's coming up in about a week or so. So to say that people don't turn out to vote is one thing. And in response is, I have children that are millennials, and there are people on the board that know my kids are extremely politically active, but they're also in grad school. 5 o'clock does not work for them. And they also have friends that have kids. 5 o'clock meetings don't work for them because every time I come to the meeting, it's always like, well, nobody shows up, nobody shows up. I have a 16-year-old. Thank God she can drive because every activity she has starts at 5 in the evening. Basically, there's like, she goes to Gabriel Richard. There's a game today. It started at 5 o'clock. So, and there are a lot of people from Gabriel Richard that live here. A lot of people, a lot of my neighbors said, hey, are you going to the meeting? I'm like, no, are you? I said, yeah. And I'm like, are you going to the game? And they're like, yeah. They're like, I told them, you take pictures and video at the game. I'll take pictures and videos at the meeting. So I think that really needs to be understood. Just because people don't show up doesn't mean they care. Look at Washtenaw County's voter turnout. I think we had, was it like over 90, what do we have? What was it? 62. Right, and the rest were in absentee ballots. So to say people don't vote and don't show up and just to bank on that is gravely mistaken because the millennials have a totally different way of being engaged than we are. They do not have to meet face to face. They do not have to hear you talk about the issues. They will go online and find the issues. And to think they won't vote, I think is a really, really big mistake. And to think nobody cares because they're not here, especially when people are trying to squeeze everything in their life in today. They're trying to squeeze in taking care of elderly parents, trying to take care of their second generational children, and trying to get off work in the same time and be engaged in their community. So I just don't want, because I constantly hear that when I come to this meeting. Well, nobody shows up. Nobody shows up. I go to the meetings in Port Huron with my mother-in-law. It's a senior community. They all show up. But when you go online, every millennial in Port Huron, they've got thousands of people watching it online. They're not physically there, but they know what's going on. So that's just, and that's a big tone they keep hearing. Well, you guys don't care because you don't show up. Not so much true. I just wanted to say that.
Madam Chair. So I just passed out those 2 items. One's just a draft to look at. I would really strongly encourage and hope that you guys will look at it, mark it up, make a lot of suggestions, and maybe we can take it from there. So I think the gentleman makes a good point that maybe there's some flexibility in those things. And so please look at it, mark it up, and rip it apart, and maybe we can come up with a document that all 7 of us like.
Okay, and put it on the next work session?
Yeah, that would be great.
Is there a time frame you're looking for so we can?
Tomorrow. If we could look at it
Friday
over,
is a
if we could
deadline.
look at it over the course of the next 2 weeks,
Friday's the deadline for the packet.
yeah. If we could look at it over the course of the next 2 weeks and maybe discuss it in a work session at the next board meeting, and if we can come up with something, move forward from there, but that would be great.
Everyone okay?
Yeah, I just had a
Clerk Rowe?
comment. I know that we're looking to the future and stuff, but I know you raised the issue of the flex time, and I just wanted to speak, because I've kind of sat in both roles, both supervisor and clerk. It's impossible to do the job in 40 hours a week. I just want to make that clear, and I know beyond a doubt, the hours that Supervisor Stumble puts in, hours I put in myself, it's more like a 50 to 55, 60-hour work week, and that doesn't include when you have elections. So I don't think anybody was saying anything, but I just wanted to say that's kind of the norm. There's a lot to do, and there's just always a lot of different things that all of us do outside of our statutory responsibilities. So just want to make that clear.
Okay. And Jimmy Wilson's arrived for whoever's doing the minutes. Discussion of the video recording of a board meeting. Trustee Ross Williams?
Sorry. So the purpose of this is to bring back a discussion in regards to video recording of the Board of Trustees working sessions, general board meetings. Now, I just want to make sure that I put on the record that I do appreciate the board agreeing with putting the audio recordings on the website. So I know a lot of work was done on that, especially by Clerk Rowe and also Supervisor Stumbo in order to make sure that was done. So I want to make sure I put that on the record first. But moving forward, I know on December 19th, 2017, I brought forward an item to discuss before the Board of Trustees, and it was a discussion regarding the posting of board meeting recordings to the web. It was an initial discussion that included video and audio recordings of the work sessions and general meetings to be posted publicly on the township website, and I made the motion. Now, earlier in 2017, a bit of research was done on my behalf, and also basically there was also a Clerk Rowe, and I believe Supervisor Stumbo was also in that meeting with Allie McCracken, who's the cable director for Van Buren Township, to discuss how that township provides video recordings for the municipality meetings and to post such meetings live on the web via YouTube, and they have a cable access channel and a Van Buren website. Now, at that time, Ms. McCracken confirmed that the Van Buren Township has a cable access agreement with Comcast Xfinity and telecommunications divider, as well as made an early decision once receiving such access to invest into a professional audio and video equipment. And I want to make sure that 60 should be more like 60,000. Not $60. Sorry, I just want to put that out there. Correction, that is $60,000. There was some information I put for the previous discussion that we had in December 19, 2017. Now, at that time, the Board of Trustees kind of in the discussion agreed that a similar setup, $60,000 plus, that Van Buren has would be cost prohibitive, as well as Ypsilanti Township does not have a cable access agreement with Comcast Xfinity and the telecommunications providers. The Board of Trustees did agree, again, as I mentioned earlier, to record the audio of the sessions and board meetings, work sessions and board meetings, and put those on the Township Government website for public review. So my discussion, and that's just a bit of the background. So my discussion is that, again, audio is provided, but I would like to re-engage discussion about video as well as audio. And I just had a couple of ideas in regards to recording the audio that would cost a lot less than what is the cost in Van Buren Township. So the recording of live video, and this is just ideas, so obviously feel free to engage and bring up anything that any other board members may think is appropriate. But Ypsilanti Facebook does like a audio, video recordings of various meetings, including City Ypsilanti City Council meetings, and they do that without a cable access provider. From viewing the video, it appears that a video camera or a phone with video, probably more so a video camera, is used to record the meetings with internet connectivity with Facebook for live streaming. Doesn't have to go on Facebook, could go on YouTube, but that's how they do it. Ypsilanti Facebook video is recorded as recently as March 7th, was interlinked via HTML, that's like basically the HTML link, and on the local news source of record, which is Ann Arbor News, MLive, for an article that recited the Ypsilanti City Council meeting. Now, the recording of the video, probably more likely not, was achieved by a video recorder with internet capability interlinked with a computer, then stored onto a video host inside of choice. Again, that could be YouTube, that could be Facebook, that could be your own storage. And that was it was made live for that instance, but you can actually record it and then just put it interlinked later for people to review on the Ypsilanti Township government website. Now, the estimated cost to do a video recorder, a computer, USB, AV cables, and the labor associated with employee coordinating and adding the video onto the website and/or video to a hosting site of choice, along with the setup arrangements during the meetings and the computer equipment, would be vastly cheaper than $60,000. Right now, and this is not to, I don't want Lisa to think I'm saying I'm going to take her computer, but right now, there's a computer sitting there. That computer could be another computer, could be linked up via USB to some video recording device. And a button could be hit in order to record the video, either record it again for it could be broadcast live, or better yet, record it and store it onto the card that's on the video device, or if it's a phone, then it would be onto the phone, and then that video is uploaded later or recorded live so people can see it during the action that's happening onto a hosting site. And I haven't done the cost estimates. I can, but in the same aspect, the estimated cost is the cost of a computer, maybe $450, a video recorder, which is basically like $250 now, some cabling, which you can get for less than $100, and that's pretty much it. And of course, the employee costs, labor costs to, coordinate putting it wherever it's going. So I just believe that we could actually get this done for a lot less than $60,000. I think that the public would love to see something like this. Now, I understand even with video recordings on the web, there can be lower public engagement. So in other words, basically, I went on YouTube and saw some of the videos of other township boards, and they may average, give or take, between 200 and 500 views. Well, just because something's averaging 200 to 500 views don't mean that they're not going to tell other people. Okay, so in other words, basically, they could be going and say, okay, well, I saw this, and then that's going to go tell 5 or 10 other people. So just because the views may be low doesn't mean that that means that you don't do it. What it means is that instead is that you're trying to make sure that you're doing everything that you can do to get out the information of what's happening at the board meetings to the public. And from that point, it is the public's responsibility in order to engage. But you have took all the responsibility that you could do as a board in order to start that engagement process. So that's basically where I am right now with this. I mean, I definitely want to discuss this further and look at, looking at the cost of the computer and the cables and a video camera. But I'll just go ahead and I'll leave it to, at this point in time, to other trustees and board members if they have any questions.
Board members, comment?
Madam Chair?
Yes, trustee Wilson?
Yeah, I just want to thank trustee Ross Williams for bringing an option that is a lot less cheaper than the $60,000 we've seen before. And I think this is something that could be doable because the township does have a variety of social media accounts that it can be posted on, as well as our own government website. This sounds doable. I'd like to see it move further. So thank you for bringing this forward.
All right, other comments?
No, I would just echo that. I think it's a great idea. The more people we can engage and get information out to might alleviate some of the problems we've had at recent meetings when maybe there was a misunderstanding of what the board was trying to achieve with certain things. And this would give people the ability to see us, listen to it, hear the discussion without actually having to be here because, as one resident already said, there's a lot of things going on in people's lives and they can't be here all the time. I would just ask maybe, since we put video cameras up around the township, I know it might be a little bit different system, but maybe that company has a video camera that, because of all the business we do with them, they might like to donate to us to use. Save us a little bit of money on it. If not, I mean, there's always alternatives, but if we find nothing else, I think $1,000, I think $5,000 is well worth the investment.
Can we, okay, Joanne.
Okay, Joanne McCullum, 1900 Tyler Road. I am so happy to hear about this coming to fruition, about the recording the township board. So many other places do that, and people do watch them, and I think that would help us as far as, maybe there are people who want to invest into this community. They may not be able to make a meeting, or, they want to look at what's going on the board to see what's happening in the area and see, that looks like a good area I want to, bring my business to. They seem to be on top of things. So I think this is a great idea. I think that it will pay for itself in a short amount of time. Thank you.
Thank you. I do think that, I know Galt Village does theirs on a tripod and they live. Yeah, that's true, live stream it. And I think it's good because sometimes people come in and just do clips of a meeting and you don't get the whole conversation. So that gives the opportunity for everyone to hear the entire conversation instead of just bits and pieces of it, if they want to. If not, you also have the audio that you could listen to it. So, but we would absolutely have to discuss this with Travis and IT, because for some reason he talks about a certain quality that we have to put on the website to make it clear enough. So we would have to engage him as well, like we did before. And I did meet with Van Buren and with Monica. It was $60,000, and they had a full department. You don't need that this day and age. I don't think. Well, I know you don't because other people are doing it. I mean, that's like highfalutin, but we don't necessarily need that. We don't have that capability to do that. And if you can do something more cost-effective and still have quality for the residents, then I think there's a way to do it. So probably encourage and ask Travis to get in to look at this, to come up with a solution on what needs. And then we'll probably need someone, right? A person to actually, or I don't know if Lisa can do that too. That's a lot.
It's just like, I know that in the past, I'm sorry, Supervisor, yeah. I know in the past, I don't know if some of you weren't here, but Derek Jackson actually had a really small camera.
That's what they have.
And he did it for almost like a year or 2 years, and it was pretty high quality, and that was years ago, and we've got, like, I don't think we need the camera that Stan was talking about, because those are like protected for weather, and they're like $6,000, they're really expensive, but I think that we probably can get a pretty good high quality with a tripod, and, and maybe just have a staff person set it up in the back, or one of us could learn how to even do it, maybe have a backup if you're not here, and then just so it has a wide angle, and we don't really even have to worry about moving it around and all that. But I think it's a good idea, and it's right. It's what Denise was talking about, and, it's true. There's the whole population that, for a lot of reasons, and a lot of elderly. I was amazed when I was on the County Board of Commissioners, the number of people, because of course their thing is like highfalutin, like how it tapes and swings away. The number of people, I would run in the grocery store, I saw you on TV and I thought, you have no life, sitting and watch. But anyway, it was amazing, and it was always cross sections. But I think, especially true of seniors who can't get out, and other groups that are just, our lives are so busy. And the cool thing about that is I didn't get to catch it. I do it now because somebody will say, hey, did you know the county board did such and such? I was like, no. But then what I really like, which I know is even more highfalutin, but I really like, because you can go right to the agenda item. I don't have to scroll, but maybe we could eventually get to that. And I can just go look at that agenda item, and you can actually see what all the commissioners had to say and how they voted and stuff. So I think the day is, it's coming too. And I thank Monica for keep pushing it forward. We got to be about transparency, and that's what people want, and that's what they just, it's just a more convenient way. They even went to the point, we were looking, so many laws that have changed, I'm trying to keep up on in the clerk's office and stuff. FOIA has changed, I'll be bringing that back. Elections, you guys all know about the election, but how that rolls out in terms of voter registration, there's just a lot of information that we can get out too. That's just another avenue when we give reports or give updates, or like the census jobs that we talked about last time, that would be out there, and the whole, whoever's watching it, could get all, it's just another way. And one of the things that came up, I think, on our survey, or one of the things that we know, is that it is the thing that, and it's not just us, everybody, communication is the hardest thing for any organization to do, and we're not any different than most organizations. And every avenue that you can use, just, it's going to increase the number of people that can know what's going on and know the information and get involved, register for programs, sign up for jobs, all those kinds of things. So maybe Travis together with, I don't know, figuring out a way to do it.
Right.
You're thinking, and bring it back
Yeah,
to the board with a proposal for
A way to actually implement it.
to bring it to fruition. If
Yeah.
everybody agrees, I don't think we necessarily need a vote. We could just
No,
have
no, we
consensus.
can't vote, yeah.
No, I mean, we can't vote here, but I'm saying I don't even think we need a vote if
No.
sounds like there's consensus that we want to move that forward, so.
And I do appreciate it, Monica, because the only way they could do it in the past was through Comcast cable. And why Ypsilanti Township did not get their own channel way back then, I don't know. Because Augusta has it, Van Buren has it, Ypsi City, we do not have our own channel on Comcast when we did our franchise agreement way back then. So this is another way to get there.
Oh,
Yes,
Denise
ma'am.
again. I just wanted to say, I was filming while Monica was speaking, and the groups that chimed in were Petticoat Patriots, how Michigan women won the vote, 247, Walk the Path, 257. Who else was it? Toledo Foster Care Mentor Program, don't know why they chimed in, 158 people. That's just on my phone while I was just filming Monica. And it's like some people who are doing a town hall meeting for Andy Levin tomorrow, and there was 160 of them. This is just through my phone.
What did you post it on, Denise?
It's just on my Facebook. I
your
just
Facebook,
went
yeah.
Facebook Live.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just my Facebook Live. And I'm just telling you the
Okay.
people that just responded. The Michigan Sierra Club, only 56 of them saw it. But this was just my phone. So I'm just sitting here just doing that to her. And there's like over 500 people just watching her talk about that. That's just how simple it is. Because that's what my kids do. That's what I do whenever I go anywhere. It's like if I want to see it, I just turn on my phone, just go Facebook Live. So it's the cost of my phone every month, which is $143 because I have two. So, and I'm just thinking, I'm just going to post it live because you're talking about people being able to see it. And some of these organizations I don't even know.
All right.
And I'm like, affordable housing advocacy out of Cincinnati. 42 people were watching it there because they're like, no cameras yet? We have those already. Because people post comments, as they're watching. They post
Okay.
comments, and I'm like,
All right, thank you.
okay, all right.
I get it, and we all agree, so. Is there any other discussion before we do the agenda review?
just one point. I know we're going to discuss this further. I know we have a social media person. So and I don't know all the ins and outs in regards to her work hours or his work hours, and, contract related issues. But in the same aspect, that might be an idea, just an idea, that, that person could start a video and end the video. Or, if need be, maybe, like Supervisor Stumbo has stated, a board member could start a video and end the video. So, I think that it's, we can make it happen. That's all I was saying. Yep, so thanks.
All right, thank you. So reviewing the agenda, everyone ready for?
We're going to go over this board rule things or no?
Oh, I'm sorry. Discussion on, Clerk Rowe had put in the packet the old board rules and revised.
Yeah, Stan had brought up, which, thank goodness, that we needed to take a look at those, and he wanted that on this work session agenda. So I, worked and just reviewed those and reviewed, I actually used the Opens Meeting Act and, what other act? What was the other act I used? Anyways,
Robert's Rule?
No, it's two laws, the Public Act, I can't remember now. Anyways, I used those both, because some things that were in there actually were not even legal. So anyways, I used those to actually go through and try to keep the same framework that was there. It was just easier to do that. Some things I did add because I thought it was important, to add those from the actual law. So like setting the hours, the 18 hours and 24, almost everything in there is actually the law, with the exception of, I think I added, there was a comments in there about the chairperson has a right. That's really not in the law anywhere, but it's kind of Robert's rules. But I added in there because it said not germane that we had before, and I added in no personal, because it's stuff we do anything, no personal attacks, that she has the right to call somebody out of order, right? But other than that, I'm trying to think if I added anything generally. So I don't know if any people had any questions or want to make comments or, look at them again, and then we'll bring them back as, to actually be adopted eventually. I also switched the N because I said, how does Stan know it was 40 years old? And then we finally realized it was the Robert's Rules that was 40. So we actually used the latest version that we actually got from MTA that we use in our office. And I think when everybody got elected, I gave them, it's the 2004 Robert's, that version is the one that MTA, they don't necessarily recommend it, but it's the one they hand out and give to people to use. Because I think they don't want to recommend a version. But anyways, I don't know if anybody has any comments, if you want to go over them line by line, or if you want to comment on it later and.
Vote on it to next meeting then?
Yes, yeah, if folks want to.
I went through some of it on the regular scheduled meeting on Rule 2. Yeah, it's on page.
What number was it?
72. Or do you want to do it now, or I'm not?
I mean, we've got time probably.
Is that what you want to do? It was 2.1. It was meetings, rule number 2 meeting. And plus you cite the law, so we probably should run it by the attorney, of course.
Absolutely.
On the regular scheduled meetings, it says, normally what we do is that we always schedule in June, July, August, and September. We reserve that date in case there's one meeting called. And I don't know if you wanted to maybe insert that in there. You know how we always.
What we normally do, say generally, this is what we do. So it's not a rule, but it's.
We adopt a schedule, and the schedule has the first and the third Tuesday.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And then we just hold those days so all board members know.
Yeah.
But I don't, and I'm just talking out loud.
Yeah, we can put that verbiage
Well,
in there
I'm
if
not-
everybody agrees.
Yeah, I was just,
It basically makes it clear the way that we actually operate.
yeah,
If the next board wants to do it differently, yeah.
yeah, because we have to have a meeting once a month.
Right.
By law. So- And then I looked at, on 3.1,
Can-
go ahead.
We're just going to go to 2.2 so we stay in order. At the very bottom on the old set, it just said consideration for evening meetings should be given preference over daytime meetings when it's a special meeting. That would really help, I think, the 4 trustees, because most of us aren't here in the daytime, and it would require some of us to take a day off work, and if we could try to do it in the evening, it would help our work schedules, but I think it would also make it easier for residents to be able to attend those special meetings as well. I would think residents would have a difficult time getting here for a Thursday morning, 8:30 a.m. special meeting.
And the reason, I originally had in there exactly what we do now, but I don't think I have that anywhere. I think I took out, you know how, like, when we have to have a special meeting, because usually we're having them because we have to. There's some grant's got to be approved, or some bill that, or anyways. And normally once Supervisor Stumble, I don't think anybody else has called a meeting with this board yet, but anyways, then we'll just kind of text everybody or email everybody and say, hey, we got to call when we're thinking about this day or this day when you could come. I think I had it in, and I decided to take it out because I didn't want to make it a rule, because I thought, well, maybe if you can't get a hold of anybody, but I originally had in here, consideration will be given to have the meeting when the highest number of board meetings can come, so. That was
I was just looking at it more from a resident's.
Yeah, and that's why I took it out, because I know that sometimes we don't have a quorum of people who say they can come for evening meeting, and well, people say, well, the only time I can come is 8 in the morning, and like I said, when we have special meetings, it's because we have to, it's not because we want.
Right.
So that's why I
fine.
thought,
Okay.
what if we had to have one, and it says you have to have in the evening, and then that'll, messed up.
And sometimes we do special work session during the week, during the day, in order to get through the budget. I mean, we've done it.
Or with staff.
And it's not saying you have to have an, it's just, you might give consideration to them if possible, that's all.
Yeah, or preferred.
Right, yeah, sure.
Maybe do you want to tweak it and say something like, if at all possible, and a quorum of the board can meet, that we'll try to hold all special meetings in the evening? Is that?
Sure, that'd be great, yeah.
Yeah. So I'll give a jab at trying to add that.
And the time of the meeting on 2.4 is 7 o'clock, but we also have work session. Do we need
And I
to
just,
put work session
I
in
just
there?
did that because under the law, that's the only one that's, like, our work session is, doesn't exist legally.
But this is a board rule.
No, I know, but the
It's
board,
not
yeah,
law,
but,
right?
I know, but the board meetings were up, the minutes before were all legal. They were all referencing legal, that's the only reason I didn't do 5.
Well, no, I didn't know if we should mention work sessions if, because we always have those. Somewhere in the board rules, just think about it. Monica, did you have something?
Just a comment. Yeah, I get both points. Legally, I guess we only have to have the meeting at 7, but the working session is at 5. So I don't know how to best put it in there, but in the same aspect, maybe it should be, this is not a legal requirement, but there's a working session at 5. I'm pretty sure the language could be cleaned up. That sounds a little bit more professional, but I do think it should be in there somehow.
Okay, and this is just a working session, and we're just talking about it. 3.1, it says the clerk shall post notice within 10 days after the first meeting of the township in each calendar year.
It's the law,
But we do ours in December, right?
we usually post, it's in the board packet, so it's
We adopt them,
technically posted the very next meeting,
but we adopt them by December
Yeah,
of the
yeah,
next year,
right,
is it?
right, mhm.
So I just didn't.
So I just repeated what was in the law on that one.
So we can do more than a law, right?
Yeah.
We usually adopt all the dates, times, and location
Yeah,
in December of every year.
I think I said it somewhere in here.
Okay, I might have missed.
It's in the first part. It says that the board will establish the meeting schedule at the end of the prior year and post, I can just put something in there, and post
And strike.
minutes are approved or something, or,
Because under 3.1, it says that it's posted.
right, that's.
10 days
that
after
says-
the first
Yeah,
meeting.
that says when you have to post them. But so I didn't know if you, because when I do say they adopted then, so I didn't know if that was the place to put it.
Chair? And we may be going down, so I didn't want to get too far down without going up. Just a question, and I just want to make sure I'm clarifying, and I'm understanding this correct. That was 2.5, changes in schedule. It says the changes in the regular meeting schedule shall not be made except upon a majority, go back, except upon a vote of the majority of board members unless the clerk determined there's a lack of agenda items and cancels the meeting. I guess basically, is that correct?
That's just what we do now.
Okay.
So that's what it was a reflection of, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, once the official meeting, other than calling a special meeting, 'cause this is referencing regular meetings.
Okay.
Once we adopt that, and it's, you can't change it unless the board decides.
Yeah, I don't think we've ever canceled one, have we?
I can remember once, so I threw it in.
But we have to have once a year.
No, I can remember, like, once recently, like, maybe, I won't say recent in terms of last week, but like, maybe in the last 4 years, 3 years. That's the only time, I remember one time that we said, oh, we don't really have anything, and was it last year? Thank you, my memory. It was last year, yeah. So that's why I threw that in there, because no one wants to come a week, got to come here and say, well, there's no agenda.
Well, we should always have minutes,
You
though.
know?
We always have minutes or statements.
That's true.
And we should always,
So it's just whether or not you want to have that flexibility. If not, we will always have a meeting on whatever the schedules are, unless at the prior meeting, the board says we're not having a meeting next,
Oh,
on
I got you.
August or something,
Okay.
yeah.
Trustee Eldridge?
No, I was just going to say, if there's no items, I guess, but the way I read it, just looking, is there's a lack of agenda items. I'm just thinking, does that mean we only have one or two things, so won't meet, we'll hold it for the next month, so we have more things to talk about? Or does it mean absolutely there's no agenda items for that month? Is it not enough to hold a meeting because there's only one or two things, or?
Well, the way it is now is like what we did last time, but we don't have to do it. The way it is right, like if we don't have that discretion in there, then we will always have a meeting unless this board at a prior meeting says we're canceling the meeting of Tuesday, which we do because of election. Or we just messed up when we put the calendar together and we didn't realize that was maybe a holiday, something. And so at the board, you'd have to have the meeting because we set those up, legally. I put that in there because I do know that we've done that in the past as kind of a discretionary. Is there always, they're right, there's always minutes, but
There's always minutes.
there's always minutes, but I know in the past, and I don't ever just do it, I always run it by the supervisor and say, hey, we don't really have any agenda items other, think we, should we, so that was it. But if you don't want to have that discretion for us to do, and it could even maybe be done with the discretion of the clerk and supervisor together, so I'm not calling it by myself, or whoever in the future, that might be something that people are more comfortable with, or just take it out totally, we'll have the meetings unless y'all vote to say we can't.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I think basically maybe it's the language, so I hope this is okay with a suggestion. Basically, go back, board members, unless the clerk determines there is a lack of or no. I think basically that will clean it up. So if it's no agenda items, then there's none. There's no reason to have a meeting. If there is a lack of agenda items, which I believe what the clerk was saying previously happened, and then obviously that would go on the next, regular scheduled board meetings. I think that covers both in that case. That's just a suggestion.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. 3.1 we talked about. Is schedule change, is everyone okay with that? 3.3 is emergency meeting. That's also known as a special meeting, you think?
No, I put because we didn't have this in there before, and I thought, well, maybe we should have. It's actually the law, so it's just like putting in here the law so everybody knows. It's very specific how you call it. You can't say it was just for health and safety. You got to say exactly what the emergency is. So it's a little, because the special takes two people, but the emergency can be called if we just call folks up and say, hey, I don't even want to say anything because it could happen. But anyways, whatever that catastrophe has happened, hey, it's happened, we're calling a meeting in 2 hours, and if 2/3 everybody says, okay, then I have to put together a notice, why it is specifically emergency, not just like it's the health and safety, but why it's the health and safety. And then there's a whole thing about what you got to do. You got to notify the county board of commissioners after. Frankly, I didn't even know that was in there. I was going through the law, and I said, well, maybe we should have that. So
does that mean any board member can do that, or who has the authority to call?
it says it takes two. Well, I think it says wait.
I might have missed it, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
3.3.
Where at?
Doug, are you familiar with this section?
I was at 3-4.
No, I don't think we've ever actually, if it's a true emergency that's imminent threat to health and welfare, safety,
Weather-related, right?
That's the
be a
thing.
natural disaster.
Oh, that we were-
Be,
I was thinking, but I didn't want to say it out loud because I don't want nothing bad to happen.
There's been bad weather, but you're,
Anyways, verbiage is right from the law. I didn't change anything on that.
it's just not real clear. I don't know if people understand, including myself. So if there is a meeting scheduled, we can adjourn it for example, the weather, or tornado, or, because it's an emergency?
This is so that
We
you
can
can call
reschedule
a
it.
meeting, that you can call a meeting that's that's emergency.
It says
You don't have to do
reschedule.
the 18 hours. No, that's different. The
Oh.
Rescheduling, because you're on 3.
Three.
3-3, right?
Yeah.
No, that's saying that if you get together and you post it and stuff, and there's not, it's referencing that you can't, have it without, all of our meetings have to be posted by law except the emergency, and that's what 3-3 is talking about. And then the emergency can only be called with 2/3.
Perhaps we can review that more than,
Like, this is the exact legal language. Okay. Yeah, if the board shall reschedule a meeting under 2.5, that's when you don't have a quorum. Was it? No, change in schedule. If the board says they want to schedule it, then we have to post it. Or if we call a special meeting under the law, you have to post it. There's certain
Right.
hours. One's 18 and one's 24. Yeah. That's what they're saying. And said there shall not be any meeting, and then it goes on, except an emergency meeting without those notices. And
So-
then it says what emergency meeting is. And it goes into it more in the next paragraph.
maybe Mr. Winters can help us with that.
I think what I would do is volunteer Angela from my office to go through these rules and maybe work with
Yeah.
Aaron and Lisa to go make sure our citations are, citations to the law maybe are referenced in the actual paragraphs. That way it might
Okay.
help keep track of it if there's a change in the law down the road.
So maybe we,
0.5 was what was in there before, so I kept that. It's basically, if anybody requests that, without charging a newspaper or radio station, you automatically,
as well as the agenda, correct?
send them everything. Yeah, anything they ask for. And I think quorum is what was in there already. And that's actually the law. Only thing they did have in there before, they had to take it out because they couldn't find it anywhere. They actually said that the deputies could make up a quorum. I thought, I don't think so. But our old rules said that. I know, and so I said, that's not even legal. Maybe it used to be, I don't know.
Now, normally, if we don't have a quorum, I don't call the meeting to order.
But it says you can't, but you can. If you don't have a quorum, it says that you can, and then if 2 people are here, they can say, okay, this one didn't work, let's have one in 2 days. So you can.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, basically on that one, I get the can. I'm told, I get that. I just think,
and I don't know, it may not be even a requirement of changing the language, but I don't think a meeting should be called with less than 4 members.
I've not called a meeting, I've never called a meeting to order on any committees or anything that I chair
This is-
because there's not a quorum.
Yeah, 4.1 is actually the law, it's taken right from the law. What it's saying is that if you need to have a meeting, 2 people can say, well, they didn't show up for this one, but let's have it. You can't, that's all you can do. You can just set the next meeting. You can't do anything else. 2 people on the board that show up can say, this didn't work, let's try 2 days from now. You can set that time.
Again, maybe that's something Angie can look at. So what we could do is just send in our comments then and
Yeah, we could, and then, yeah.
have Angie and the clerk's office get together on it. I did take several notes, but I can send them.
Yeah.
And even though the old rules said that I'm supposed to restate the motion, I really don't do that. I read the agenda item, there's a motion, support, and we vote.
It's actually Robert's rules, so I don't, yeah.
But I
I
don't,
mean, we don't, right.
I don't do it that way.
Right.
And in order to get recording of people's votes, you know, if people vote nay, I usually say Eldridge and Doe nay. But these rules say that we have to do a roll call vote. And I know in the past,
No, it says one or the other. You can't do one or the other.
okay.
Yeah. On the voting.
And the meeting in closed session, it is for specific reasons.
And those, I took them right out of the open meetings act, verbatim. I mean, I didn't. Anytime it was a legal thing, I didn't put any of my own words in.
Right.
I took it.
Yeah, and I appreciate what you did. Reading the old ones and realizing how outdated they were really helped bring this to this century, which is important. So if you want, what we can do is just,
Yeah, that'd be great. And then we can take another stab at it with, working with Angie.
is that all right?
Clarify. Yeah, it's fine with me. Yeah, absolutely.
So just send proposed,
Any suggestions, ideas, or questions? Because, you know, we might have to say that's actual verbiage from the law. But we can just, yeah, we can send your notes to me and
is that all right with the,
I'll send it to
Trustee,
Angie and
okay.
I'll work on them. So great. Thank you
all right. The
for bringing it up, Stan.
consent agenda, we have the statements and checks and the minutes of the meeting. And there was in the work session minutes that, and I recall the discussion at the last meeting, I didn't listen to the tape, but on the section regarding when trustee Giro wanted to bring back from table the opt-out. Yeah, and I was saying we can't do that because it's not on the agenda, and somehow when you read these minutes, it doesn't really reflect that. So the way it reads, it reads as if trustee Giro wanted to put it, you know, for a tabling motion back on this agenda, at the last meeting agenda, and I was concerned that the people who weren't notified of the agenda item would not be able to comment on it.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I thought anything that was on the table always should show up under old business. And she probably, I'm assuming she was assuming the same thing, but it wasn't written on our agenda. But I thought if we table something, it continues to show up on old business, kind of like the
No.
election
Yeah.
specialist. It continued to show up on old business until we took action on it.
It wasn't it wasn't on our agenda at all as a tabled item.
Right. Shouldn't it have been, though, if we table something?
The previous
It was,
motion said until the board got together, which was
it didn't even say that. It just said the board, till the board agreed.
Reviewed it,
decides,
or-
to decides,
yeah.
right.
So it was
So
a
it would-
weird motion in the beginning.
Like if two board members or whatever, or even one board member said, hey, I want that back on the agenda, I mean, it wouldn't have been everybody, but usually that's how, it's either the tabling we put on the agenda if it's done to a specific date.
Correct.
If we table
And this
something
one
tonight, the
wasn't.
next time would be April 2nd. If not, if it's not on a specific date, it's usually for a certain reason, and so until that reason's fulfilled, but I mean, it's really kind of a call. I mean, you could put every table motion back on there every time under old business, but it's not, I haven't done it that way, and Brenda didn't do that before me. I don't know what the person before her did. But
No,
think
and
it's
I think maybe that was trustee Gerald's intention, but my concern was that the people who were at the meeting when it was on the agenda didn't know it was going to be reconsidered at that time. And my whole point was I didn't think that was a good way to do it.
Right, so
Even-
what I'll do is go back and listen to the tape, and whatever's on there is what we'll put under there for that. Because I thought I'd listened to it, because I thought that seems like it was wrote somehow different, and it seems like I went back and I said, no, I don't think that's right, and I listened to it, but it's been a few days, so I'm not sure.
But the intent was when something's tabled, and trustee Wilson, you're right, normally it's at the next agenda, and for some reason this one wasn't. And then we discussed that Attorney Winters is going to a forum or something April 1st, was it? And so then it was going to be even delayed, another agenda item, and then I had said, well, wonder if they change the rules and we don't have it. And she goes, well, let's just bring it up. So the discussion was, I think it was a good discussion, but when I read those minutes, it looks as if
It wasn't the basic table in motion, it had provisions on it.
it was not on the agenda.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So,
Madam
Yes.
Chair, thank you for bringing that up. And that's, I don't know, maybe I missed it. It could have, I'm just going through. Okay. Yep, it's in there. Okay, yeah, so this goes back like similar to, I almost hate to bring it back up, but similar to snow removal. I mean, and not that I'm trying to bring that back up, but the board talked about it, and then basically it got sent, and that's it. So, I mean, I'm thinking that's where we are on this. The board talked about it. The legal counsel said they have to attend a conference on April 1st. I'm assuming that's what's going to happen. So after then, maybe, I guess, I don't know if it's going to come back up or not, but I have seen it both ways. I mean, I assume that since legal counsel has said they're attending a conference to learn more about it, that it wouldn't come back up until at least after that.
he gave a
That was
date.
wrong, but
I would just recommend for the future that we just be real specific, like we get more clarity about our table motions. Yeah, either just specific date or just very specific act. We're going to table this until Travis gets blah, blah, or, just make it clear, because I think we all got a different interpretation of how long we was going to.
Attorney Winters?
Yeah, my interpretation, from what I heard, at the original motion to table, it was tabled pending further direction of the Township Board. At the following meeting thereafter, I suggested that I try and come up with a policy or resolution that would set forth maybe in a more detailed explanation as to what the Township Board's opt-out ordinance, actually give it some backdrop and some background, because the ordinance as previously drafted was very, very a one-page document simply saying opt-out, and there was no real background information to give more of a plan going forward. And so at the last board meeting, I had mentioned that since there was a MTA legal forum on April the 1st that I wanted to attend, that I was planning on going to that forum, and after that I was going to draft the resolution and give it for the Township Board's consideration, hopefully at the April 16th board meeting. So this is something that I missed. That was the path that I was following.
And the question right now is just the minutes. So I will, because the minutes are what they are, so I will go look at that section. Do you have any other sections or other minutes you want me to revise based on what actually was said on the tape.
No. I don't have any.
Does anybody else, everything all right with the minutes, guys? All right, all right. So I will put that one. So
Statements,
you want to approve them with me bringing all that one back, or do you want to approve it with me doing it exactly like it
I bring it-
verbatim? Bring it back?
you think that'd be
Yeah, that's
easier?
fine. Yeah, it doesn't, makes me new.
That'd be easier, I
So
think.
we'll approve them all except for the work session one.
Statements and checks, treasurer's report, attorney's report.
Madam Chairperson, just to give the board a quick update, since the last board meeting, I do know that Angela King from our office has been working with Angela Vergis from Recreation to prepare a contract for the township's contribution to the Rutherford Pool. She's also made contact with Mr., I think his first name is John Weiss, to obtain the articles confirming they are in fact a 501c3 corporation, so they continue to go forward in trying to prepare a contract that will allow the township to legally make that donation to the pool in exchange for receiving certain defined benefits for township residents, township youth, township seniors, et cetera. We also had a very productive meeting. Time goes by, it gets kind of fuzzy here, but with Pastor Ford regarding the Kaiser School. And after meeting with Pastor Ford, other persons associated with the Greater Faith Transitions, as well as his fire suppression contractor, as well as his general contractor, I think Mike Radzik, he's here, well, he was there, would agree that it was a very productive meeting. And I think that it was one that I think that their proposal and what they want to accomplish over there in Kaiser School is one that would be, for example, they have a number of programs they wish to assist in terms of everything from dressing for success to have other issues pertaining to mentoring for single parents. And so I think it's going to be a multi-purpose as well as a sanctuary. They have agreed to cooperate or go forward and with their banks to obtain the necessary fire suppression. And that was just our first meeting face-to-face. So a lot of times, a lot of assumptions are made until you actually sit down and have a face-to-face conversation. And I believe that with Dave Bellers, the building official, our fire marshal, fire chief, Mike Radzik, Ms. Charlotte Wilson, myself, I think we had a good meeting and look forward to getting their cooperation to making sure that can become a community asset as well as a community center, as well as a sanctuary for that purpose. I'm also scheduled to meet tomorrow with Nathan Vogt from Reimagine Washtenaw. We're trying to get that last easement, and so we have finally reached the right people within the Camelot organization to get their easement. I'm not saying we'll have it in hand tomorrow, but we have a conference call with the legal counsel for Reimagine Washtenaw Camelot, and so Nathan's coming over here at 1:30, and he and I will make that phone call. We also have the firefighter negotiations that are continuing. We have another meeting scheduled for tomorrow, and I'll keep the township board apprised as to that progress. One of the more serious matters that continues to preoccupy a lot of our time, our time and attention, is the 923 Ecorse Road. That's the Forbes Cleaners. This is one that's been very, very of concern to the township full-time officials and the board at large. We have a contaminated site. The Forbes Dry Cleaners has been demolished. They continue to do additional off-site testing for vapor and soil on some of the residential properties on Davis Street. I've talked to Mary Miller, who's going to be involved in the follow-up conference call this coming Thursday, They're also going to put the appropriate fencing around the Forbes location to deter any trespassing or perhaps even an attractive nuisance. And so we don't really know just yet as to the extent of the removal of the soil. They're still trying to get their arms around that issue. The funding has been secured through the state of Michigan for the supplemental costs. We know right now that that site may very well exceed $3.25 million. And again, that was one that we took a very aggressive position as a board that we demanded that property not be sold by County Treasurer Catherine McCleary due to a foreclosure, because we knew that was very likely contaminated property. It's turned out to be far worse than I believe any of us realized at the time, because it's actually migrated into the residential street, and all hands are on deck and trying to make sure that they do right by the township in regards to having that area properly remediated. There's a few more items on the agenda tonight that have some legal input, especially in regards to the River Grove Townhomes property. That's on the agenda this evening, and I can say those comments for the board.
Any question? Thank you, Mr. Wood. The next item under new business was for the Washtenaw Regional Resource Management Authority. This was a presentation that was given by Evan Pratt regarding for our county drainage program, and he had asked us to adopt it, and he's worked with 2 other communities to adopt it and actually start addressing the infrastructure for our drainage. So we spend, this year was $160-some thousand in drainage repairs and maintenance. On the agenda, there's 2 other ones that exceeds $15,000 because the limit is $5,000, and they projected this to cost over $15,000 to repair the other 2 drains. But this, we do our road systems, we do our water and sewer, and this is the next phase of our utilities and our infrastructure. And at the meeting that we had yesterday with the Lieutenant Governor and the Director of MDOT, a resident came up to me and just said, our roads in the county in Ypsilanti Township, you can tell that the township board invests in them. And we have always done that, and I'm so glad we have done that. And we also do the same. We finally got it coordinated with water and sewer and pavement. And now this is the last piece of the utilities to make sure that stormwater is being addressed and running away from your house and not into neighbors' yards and collapsing, and so it goes to the quality of water. So he has asked us to adopt this and then to come back with a budget amendment in the future to address the additional needed improvements.
Bernie, we didn't do the public hearing.
I'm sorry, the public hearing for the submission. Well, support for the admission of Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund application to Loon Feather Park. This was discussed, and we set the public hearing at the last meeting. The gentleman's going to be here, Chris.
Chris is coming.
To go, the engineers went out and gave us an estimate. It was a little over $500,000. The grant is for 50%. It would update the 2 pavilions, the soil erosion, address that issue on the banks, the bathrooms, and the gatehouse. So this was, Mr. Winter, was it 84 or 87, something like that, was the original grant for this park. So nothing has really been done to it. We did replace the playground equipment last year, and so it is time to update it. It's a very old infrastructure now, and if we could just update it with a grant, that would be great for the taxpayers and great for the residents as well. So this is a public hearing to actually address this. Clerk Rowe?
I just want to say thanks to everybody, because, we put this together really, really fast. Chris says he's got it done. Him and I are going to meet tomorrow. dot our i's and cross our t's, and share that with the rest of the board when the actual application's put forward. But one of the things that we need, and it would be great if we could send it in by April 1st. If not, we can do them later. But any organizations that you can think of, and any individuals, family, friends, anybody that wants to write a letter in support, he says they really look highly upon that. And we've contacted our elected officials, with the County Board of Commissioners, Congresswoman Dingell's office, West Willow Association, and again,
Sugarbrook.
I need to get, I sent it to Crystal today, and she's going to help, hopefully with Sugarbrook and Galt Village, that those organizations can too. And each of you individually, and so if you just want to send me the letter, that'd be great. I'll get it to Chris, and he'll get it in there. But you need to address, it'll be on the website, you need to address the letter actually has to go to the DNR, not to me, so. And that'll be on it's actually should be on the website if she hasn't posted it. I sent it late this afternoon to ask.
The more people we get to support it, the more points you get for the grant.
One of the great things about it too is that we talked about a little bit is the great, one of the best things I think is that 6 or 7 miles of bike path that virtually can get you around the entire lake in the township. This will actually have ADA accessible sidewalks in the park connected to that path, so that's really good. Chris is reaching out to the bicycle folks too, and to the water resource people, because it ends up $168,000 of the project is actually stabilizing soil, the park itself.
Questions or comment?
Yeah.
Trustee Monica?
Thank you. I'll definitely write a letter, so that's not even a question. Loom Feather, just to give a little bit of comment there, to me is one of our premier parks. I know it's not looked at sometimes at the same way as Fort Lake or Heritage, but Loom Feather, you can actually go, you can sit out, on that bay area.
Pier,
You can
yeah.
fish,
On the pier, yeah.
Yeah, that you can meditate if you like, which I do sometimes. So, I mean, it's good sunsets, great pictures. So, I mean, it is one of our premier parks, and I think that this will be, if we're awarded the grant, I think this would be a great addition to Ypsilanti Township in order to, improve the infrastructure, in order to make it more even appealing to residents that may not know about it now. So I can just say I'll definitely write a letter. Loom Feather is one of my favorite parks, and I think I've said that many, many times, so. Yeah.
All right. We talked about the regional resource management, the drainage systems that are on there. Is that it? Yeah. And then we have the authorization for payment to Laverne Courtney for the conveyance of the interest of the land in River Grove townhouses. And Mr. Winters, this is what you're going to...
Yeah, just before I get to that, did we cover the regional management authority? I think Evan Pratt's coming tonight.
No, Theo is going to come
Okay.
for that. We can talk about it now, but I know that Theo will be there for that as well.
In regards to the River Grove townhomes, the Laverne Courtney situation, this is property that's located on Bridge Road. It's commonly referred to by us as River Grove Townhomes Phase 2. It consists of 17.19 acres. It's got 75 lots to this parcel of property. The developer builder never got to Phase 2 because it was beginning in 2004 and 5 to start having the beginnings of the recession, and it melted down in 2007. And so Phase 2 went through a series of county tax foreclosures during the last 10, 12 years. Back in 2015, even 2014, Treasurer McCleary quit-claimed this property to Mr. Laverne Courtney, and according to the terms of that quit-claim deed, if he ever defaulted on making and keeping the taxes current, he would lose his interest in the property, and it would automatically revert to the township. This is something that we did not put our hand up to ask for. It's something that she is entitled to do under state law. And of course, Mr. Courtney did in fact did not keep the taxes current. It was conveyed to the township on December 29th of 2015. And so this property has been sitting there for this time period, and it's now at a point in time where we are getting phone calls. I got another phone call actually yesterday from a realtor wanting to know what progress we are making with getting this property ready to be advertised for through an RFP to sell the property. We have an idea what the value is, but in order for the title company to give whoever buys this property what we've commonly referred to as marketable title. In other words, whoever buys this property is going to have to go out and put in at least $1 million in infrastructure because the utilities need to be brought to these lots. They have to go to a bank and actually have in hand not a quitclaim deed, but one that's a marketable title that's guaranteed by the title company. And in order for the title company to do that, they were not satisfied with the process that had been followed, and so we had to file a complaint to quiet title. And during that process, Mr. Courtney and his attorney, even though they had not done anything to assert ownership, raised some issues, and it came to a point where, in exchange for a payment, in exchange for a resolution of $4,000, the township will get a guaranteed deed from him, waiving any interest in this property. That will satisfy the title company. That's the last remaining hurdle to get over in order for the township to then proceed with the RFP. Maybe more information than what you want to know at this work session, but it basically is the last step in the process that we did not initiate, but once we own the property, we can't just sit on it and do nothing. At the same time, the River Grove Townhomes Phase 1 was a very successful development. In fact, all of those lots in Phase 1 have in fact been sold. And from what we have learned from just anecdotal conversations at the counter, there's a great deal of interest by a number of developers to continue with this same product in Phase 2. And given the housing demands and given the price point entries in other parts of the county, we think that this would be a great fulfillment of what was going to be done by a developer back 15 years ago. It's located right next to the North Hydro Park over there. There's plenty of trails already, parkland. It's an ideal location, and the assessing department has got a pretty good idea where they think it should go per acre. But in order for that to occur, we need that last remaining deed, and he's agreed to accept that for the $4,000.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments on that? I also know that there's a grant with the Connecting Communities or B2, R2, there's all these acronyms, I'm not sure which one it is, and they're looking for a connection, possible connection, Doug, along this property line. So it's good that we own it so that we can have a connection too. I'm just putting it out there because it might come back before the board.
It depends if you still own it or not at the time, I guess.
No, I know, but it's on the edge of the property, but it will be the property that we own. And I just didn't want you to be surprised if it came up. It would be good to have a connection, so. Item number 6 is the construction agreement with OHM for the Civic Center and Community Center roof replacement project. This will, as you know, we had an issue with the weather, and the contractor brought all the stuff on site we did complete the community center, but in order to complete the Civic Center roof, this is the amendment to the construction services agreement with OHM, not to exceed $8,450 and get that work finally completed. And hopefully it'll stop leaking upstairs, that rubber roof, right?
Right.
Number 7, any questions regarding that? Just to hopefully bring that capital improvement to a close. The next item is the adoption of National Pollinator Week. We do this every year as a requirement of being the first bee city in the state of Michigan. 2 of the hives are alive across the street, so that's exciting.
Yay.
I think our protocol, little protection houses that we put together may have worked, but I'm not exactly sure, but they were definitely buzzing the other day. Budget amendment number 5. Anyone have questions on that? Their PTO payouts, professional services for the Civic Center roof. And that was it?
Yes.
Trustee Monica Ross Williams?
Yeah, just real quick, I'll just say it here, which is fine. I just wanted to highlight the Lincoln Consolidated School Boys Basketball Team who won their first ever state championship in D1. So
Yes.
I think that's absolutely awesome. And then also Amani Bates, who is the best freshman basketball player in the nation, who happens to be at Lincoln, which is great. He also was named Michigan Gatorade Player of the Year. So just wanted to highlight both of those.
That was awesome.
Would there be a way we can reach
They're gonna-
out to the school manager at the
Yeah.
next meeting?
Yeah,
I've already reached out to the athletic director and the coach, and they are so excited. They're going to come to the next meeting. They're going to give me all the details on all the various, because all that stuff's being, we're going to see more awards given. And they actually got rated number 1. They moved up from number 20, they started at number 30 in the rating.
Does Morocco, do you want to
They're
make
actually
a
up to
statement
one
before
now,
the
so-
board meeting? Do you have- You're welcome to.
They actually are having a big event April 1st.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Mike Morocco. How are you all doing? You all had an opportunity to look at the end-of-year report I provided last month. Did you have any questions about it? I think some of the highlights are, if you noticed, we have 2 crime categories that have went up over during last year compared to 2017. And those are retail fraud, basically shoplifting, and fraud, which is, the over-the-phone scams. Most of it is credit card fraud currently. But I think the men and women out there working are doing a fantastic job. I also went in, I compared how we did compared to what we did last year, or in 18 versus 17, but then I also went and compared how we did versus the state of Michigan. And I think I was pleasantly surprised looking at our numbers compared to the rest of the state. Couple places that stick out that we need some work in are specifically the runaways in our area. Although we've had significant reductions in our runaways over the last several years, we're still considerably higher than the average in the state of Michigan, which, we're working real hard at it, but it looks like we're missing something there, and obviously it's a community problem, but something that we come in and end up documenting it and coming and helping. So that's something that we're going to try and focus on additionally this year. And we also have the addition of our 3 PSUs this year, so that's going to be even better compared to last year, so we should see some more improvement, and we got really good trends. Everything's on the way down. I think service is on the way up, but you'd have to tell me that, but I believe it is. And also, one thing I wanted to bring up is that if you looked, I'm always saying how busy we are. And if you take a look at what I took the top 5 producers in Washtenaw County of warrant requests, where deputies or investigators go to the prosecutor's office and say, hey, we believe there's enough here to make a case out of. So there's Ann Arbor City Police has about 150 sworn officers. There's Ypsilanti Township. We operate right around 42 officers. Sheriff's Office outside of Ypsilanti Township operates with about 60, 70 officers. Ypsi City Police is between 25 and 30. And Pittsfield has, I believe, 32 officers. When you look at the number of warrant requests that were put forward by the deputies in Ypsilanti Township for 2018, Ann Arbor City Police, remember, the 150 police officers, they submitted 1,627 cases to the Washtenaw County Prosecutor's Office for review. Ypsilanti Township deputies put forward 1,446. Sheriff's Office, all other sheriff's deputies outside of Ypsilanti Township put forward 1,109. Ypsi City Police did 809, and Pittsfield did 786. Those numbers are consistent over the last 5 years. So when I say we're busy, you can see right there, we're about, we did 100 less than triple the people. So, I mean, we're out there working hard. Your people are working hard for you. So, and I think they're doing an excellent job.
They are doing a good job, and the 12-hour shift is working well too, isn't it, Lieutenant?
Absolutely, it's going well. We actually have, if you remember, we had one of our gentlemen I told you about who had went to be a offensive line coach for Eastern Michigan for the football team. He just got with me last week talking about coming back. He's pursuing a master's degree, and the coaching thing didn't work out apparently, but one of the reasons that he's wanting to come back is he feels he can continue his education and still work here with his, because of the 12-hour shifts. So things are going good.
Yeah. Mr. Winters, you have a question?
Actually, I was going to just kind of add on to what Lieutenant Morocco, and I meant to do this last board meeting. As lieutenant and even the fire chief, if he was here, and I know Stan has got personal experience, arson is one of the most difficult cases to actually get a warrant for. It's very, very difficult because the evidence sometimes is just not there. And we had a case that the video is just unbelievable in terms of the arson case that occurred over here at the Huckleberry Party Store. And I believe, and help me out, Lieutenant Morocco, I know there was a detectives involved in there from the Washtenaw County who worked hand in glove with
Detective Mike Babich. I actually spoke with him today about that case because it took almost a year to put the case together. And then they ended up getting the warrant for him, got it charged, picked the gentleman up, and then they were in for the initial exam today. But I don't have the results of that. I tried to text Detective Babich, but I didn't get a response yet.
And during that year of investigation, and keep in mind, this is, I think, Fire Marshal Dan Kimball's maybe his first year being a fire marshal, I believe.
Yes.
And so we met with them, and we saw what Mike Radzik, myself, Angela King looked at it and everything, and the Sheriff's Department put all hands on deck. Because arson, in this case here, this was in a strip mall, okay? So first of all, you have a situation where the fire can really go quickly and destroy a lot of other properties. And then when you respond to a fire, the people who are responding to a fire, we've seen too many times when a roof may collapse, a wall may collapse, and then you have first responders, you have fire and police in harm's way because of someone trying to burn down a building for insurance purposes, et cetera, et cetera. And this is one of the few arson cases I can say during the time period I've been the township attorney that it was just a great detective, classic case.
Great collaborative effort. And
the videos and everything else. So hats off to the fire department and the sheriff's department for working together to bring this one to
Absolutely. And as you talk about where injury to first responders, if you remember several years ago, a very similar situation in a strip mall. We lost a firefighter in Garden City inside of a restaurant that was burned down. Yeah. So.
Thank you so much for coming out, Lieutenant.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate everything that everyone's doing. We're going to take a break, and it is 6:43, and we'll return at 7 o'clock.